Good evening. My name is Bob Connors. It's 6:01 p.m. I'd like to call the October 17th meeting of the Newbury Conservation Commission to order. Sam, can you read the remote open meeting law preamble and take a roll call of the members present?
Yes, give me 1 second. I'm waiting for that to open up. Computer's been very, very slow today. Having a lot of issues with it.
I don't know what's up with Comcast. We've had problems with our routers.
Yeah, I think it wasn't an issue with Comcast. I think it was some new software that got installed while I was away that's just kind of slowed things down. Our new IT guy is working on getting a bunch of new stuff for a lot of people. So all right. Oh, why is that not working? Okay. All right. As a preliminary matter, my name is Samantha Holt, Town Staff Conservation Agent for the Newbury Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members are present and can hear me. Conservation Commission members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Bob Connors.
Yes.
Brad Duffin.
Present.
Diane O'Brien.
Yes.
Mary Rimmer.
Yes.
Mick Brown is not going to be here tonight, and I don't see TJ or Woody in yet, but if they come in, I will let everyone know. Good evening. This October 17th, 2023 open meeting of the Newbury Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with the act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which extends the governor's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until March 31st, 2025. This order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location and allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and/or telephone conference, and the recording will be available on the Newbury Access YouTube channel. Looks like Woody just signed in. Meeting materials were provided to the Conservation Commission members prior to the meeting for review and were posted on the Commission webpage for public access. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Proponents will be given 10 minutes to present. More time may be allowed at the discretion of the chair. After they conclude the remarks, we will go down the list of commission members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. And it looks like TJ just signed in as well. For all attendees except commission members and staff, please remember to mute your computer using the mute button or your phone using *6 to mute or unmute when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer unless you've been allowed to do so. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any response, please wait until the floor is yielded to you and state your name before speaking. If commission members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself when you wish to speak. There will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during public hearings. After commission members have spoken, we will afford the public an opportunity to comment and/or ask questions as follows. I will see questions and comments at the appropriate time through the Zoom raise hand function. For video conference participants, to raise your hand, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click on the yellow hand that appears. If you don't see a yellow hand, click on the participants button. A list of participants will open and display on the right. At the bottom of this participant area, you will see an option to click on a raise hand button. Please ensure your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. You may rename yourself using the more function next to your name. For telephone participants, to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your phone's keypad. We will then allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hands in the order in which they appear on my screen based on when the function was selected. Each participant will be called upon to provide his or her name and address or affiliation and will be afforded 3 minutes to make comments. More time may be allowed at the discretion of the chair. The proponent or commission members will have the opportunity to reply as needed. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your questions. We will then continue down the list of those in the raise hand column and again afford time for responses as needed. All participants are reminded that only matters which fall into the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission may be discussed. Chat feature has been disabled for this meeting and everyone is expected to conduct themselves in the same manner they would at an in-person meeting. Disruptions that impede operations of this commission will be addressed once by the chair and should be acknowledged by the disruptor. Further disruptions may result in complete removal from the meeting with no readmittance. Vulgar or obscene actions or comments will result in immediate removal from the meeting with no readmittance. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Upcoming meeting dates, November 7th and December 5th. Okay, we have a couple of meeting minutes to review. The September 5th meeting minutes, why don't we take a moment to look at those, see if there's any comments, corrections, or concerns. Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the September 5th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. And okay, roll call vote. All those in favor say aye. Mary,
Yes.
TJ,
Yes.
Woody,
Yes.
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. All right, why don't we take a look at the September 19th meeting minutes to see if there's any comments or corrections on those. Thank you, Sam, for getting those out. I know you've been jammed up and we've had pretty full agenda the last several meetings. So thank you very much for getting those done. It's yeoman's work. Okay, I don't hear any questions or concerns. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes for September 19th?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. All those in favor, say aye. Mary,
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't present.
okay. TJ,
Aye.
Woody,
Yes.
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. Okay, first order of business is a certificate of compliance certificate of, is that compliance or completion? Compliance.
Compliance.
DEP file number 0501359, 69 Southern Boulevard for work to construct a new single-family structure with associated site work. Sam, can you provide an overview and a recommendation on this matter?
Yep, so these ones were both pretty straightforward. The owners for both projects are the same, or were the same applicant at least. Kind of similar projects, 2 different lots right next to each other. Everything was pretty straightforward. It was just construction of a couple new houses. They did the demolition of the old cottages that were on site. Did some replanting. There were, I believe, kind of early on-ish, there were a couple changes just in the configuration. I think it was the configuration of the driveway. But it wasn't nothing really major, pretty simple stuff that actually I ended up handling through a administrative approval because it was just a kind of a shift in the location, but not necessarily the footprint. But I did do the inspection and everything looks good. And the plantings seem to be coming in very nicely.
Okay, and your recommendation is to?
For a complete certificate.
Okay. All right, questions from the members. Mary, any questions for Sam on this matter?
I don't have any.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Woody, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions either. Thanks, Bob.
Okay. Brad, any questions?
I'm good, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
TJ, any questions?
All set.
And Diane, are there any questions for Sam on this one?
Nope.
Okay, thank you, Sam. And I have no questions. All right, Sam, any raised hands from the public at this time?
I do not see any.
All right. Is there a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 69 Southern Boulevard?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second? All right, roll call vote. All those in favor say aye. Mary,
Aye.
TJ,
Aye.
Woody,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. All right, now we go to the next one. This is for a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 0501359, 71 Southern Boulevard for work to construct a new single-family structure with associated work. Sam, any change on your overview between this and 69?
Nope, same thing.
Okay. Any questions, team? Any questions from the members? Mary, any questions on this one?
All set. Thank you.
Woody?
No, no questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Woody. Brad, any questions?
All good, Mr. Chair.
TJ, any questions? I'll take that as a no. Diane, any questions?
No.
And Bob Connors has no questions. Sam, again, any raised hands from the public at this time?
Nope.
Okay, is there a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 71 Southern Boulevard?
So moved.
There is- Okay, and roll call vote. All in favor, say aye. Mary,
Aye.
TJ,
Aye.
Woody,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. All right, now we have,
Well,
Mr.
thank you,
Public.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Yeah, take care.
Okay, buddy. Okay, we have first public hearing on DEP file number 0501417, 76 Cottage Road for work to upgrade the septic system. Team, this file number came in this afternoon. It didn't show up.
Bob, I think you skipped over one.
Okay, what am
COC for governors.
I don't have that. Well, let me check.
Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah, why don't you read it out, Sam? For some reason, I didn't see that.
I didn't see that either.
So this one is DEP file number 0501264, 1 Elm Street Governor's Academy for work to construct environmental studies building, elevated walkway and stone paths, paved parking and access drive, and other associated site work. So for those of you who, I'm sure quite a few of you are familiar with this one, we've seen some amendments and stuff for this project. This is the Alphon Science Center. It's an awesome project. Everything looks really, really good. Everything is really well stabilized. Everything appears to have been done all in compliance with what was approved. The plantings look really good. Everything is really well stabilized so far. There are a few areas on some of like the steeper slopes where there was a little bit of extra clearing and not quite as much construction put back in. That's got some I can't remember what the name of the mats are. They're erosion control mats, sort of kind of like jute string mats that are staying out on the property. They're biodegradable, and basically it's just kind of there to help hold some of the soil and everything in, but stuff is already starting to grow in through it. So I don't have any concerns or issues with that matting staying out there. Stuff is coming in through it just fine. The only thing, and I don't know if they've chatted with the planning board or not yet, the stormwater retention basins and everything all look really good. But I just wanted to make sure that before they totally closed everything out altogether, or kind of, moved on with everything, that they did chat with planning and make sure that planning is all set. But there's not usually any issue with us closing out our permits
Hey,
separately to that, because planning board typically reviews the stormwater stuff on their own.
So Sam, I'm looking at the published meeting agenda, and that is not listed on it. We only have 69 and 71 Southern Boulevard on
On the
the,
website?
well, I'm not sure on the agenda items that you sent out to us. It does not list.
It's on mine.
Is it
And
on
mine.
yours?
I have it online here.
It's on mine.
Wow, how do I have a strange one then? Okay,
I think Brad doesn't have it either, he
I
said.
don't either.
yeah.
It might not have been the emailed copy, but I just pulled it up online, the agenda.
Okay, as long as it's on the agenda, then why don't we do this? You've made your recommendation, Sam. Any raised hands from the public?
I do not see any.
Okay, and what's the address on this, Sam, and what's the file number, just so that I can make a notation on this?
The file number is 050-1264. And the street address is 1 Elm Street.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to issue a certificate of
Oh,
compliance for
I have a
1
couple
Elm
of
Street?
comments before
Oh,
you get
okay,
to.
I'm sorry,
motions.
Mary. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Mary.
thank
Any
you.
questions?
Two questions. One, I think, Sam, there was some restoration plan, wetland replication plantings. And I think that since this project was just recently approved, the amendments for the boardwalk, unless that's a separate filing, that there would have been some monitoring of the plantings that were put in that extend beyond today.
I think Tom, I think Tom Woodruff is in here. I don't remember seeing any requirements for.
Post-construction monitoring, usually we put that in for wetland replication, that, there's two, it's successful for 2 growing seasons.
There, on this project, there's no wetland replication on this part of the project. There was a bunch of plantings, and we did have DeRosa come out and do a site walk, and they did write up a submittal, or just a document of their findings, which I believe is with the certificate of compliance submittal. And yeah, their concluding remarks were that everything was established. They've confirmed the plantings have achieved greater than 75% survival rate, even though it's not a wetland replication. It was just part of the planting schedule and the site plan that was approved by the commission. But on this part of the project, there is no wetland replication as part of the approved plan. On the boardwalk that is still under construction, there is.
That's what I was wondering. So the boardwalk was a separate filing.
Yes, yep. There were three filings, 2 original. One was the dock, second was the building and boardwalk down to the dock, and the third was the new sidewalk and wetland crossing boardwalk. That one is still open and not complete yet.
Okay, that clarifies that. And then my only other comment was there any kind of a post-construction operation and maintenance plan for the stormwater facilities? Was there any reporting required following issuance of a certificate of compliance?
From
David,
our end, I don't think so. That might have been a planning
Planning board?
side.
Okay. Sometimes they put that in the O&M plan, that there's some reporting that has to occur. And if that was submitted to us, then that would apply to us as well. So assuming that's not the case, then I don't have any other questions.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Woody, any questions on this matter?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Brad, you and I are kind of in the same boat. We didn't have it on our agenda, and I didn't bother to look for it in the file, drop file.
I'm good with it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. TJ, any questions on this one?
I'm good too.
Okay, Diane, any questions on this matter? Diane, you're on mute if you
No.
Okay, there's no uncertainty with that answer. Ed,
Sorry about that.
I don't have any questions. I'm going to abstain voting on this simply only because I haven't had a chance. I wasn't prepared to look at the file, but it does seem to be in order. Okay, Sam, any raised hands from the public at this time?
I do not see any.
All right. Is there a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 1 Elm Street?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
roll call vote. All those in favor? Mary,
Yes.
TJ,
Aye.
Woody,
Yes.
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors. I'm going to abstain on this one. All right.
Thanks, Tom. Great work.
thank you all very much. Really appreciate it. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now going back to, I hope it's our first public hearing.
It is.
Okay, team, so this is 76 Cottage Road. The file number came in today. Doesn't show up on the the portal, but it's file number 0501417, 76 Cottage Road for work to upgrade a septic system. Sam, can you provide a project overview and a recommendation on this matter?
Yep, so this one, like it said, it's a septic system upgrade. There is a revised plan that Alex sent over, that's got, it was just the well got relocated, right, Alec?
Yes, the well got shifted over a little bit and then the system slightly, but nothing major.
Yeah, so not a whole lot's changed, for the revised plans. And as far as I'm aware, Jim didn't have any additional comments or anything. He sent out the file number. Usually if they're sending out a notice with the file number in it, that will have comments as well. And we didn't have any. Usually we don't get comments on things like septic system upgrades. So I would be kind of surprised if we did get any.
Okay, Sam. Alec, can you put up the plan?
Yep.
And then I'll open it up to questions from the members.
Can you all see that? Which screen you see? There it is.
Yep.
Okay.
Alrighty. So
Why don't you walk us through this, Alec, and then I'll open it up to
yep, absolutely. So my name's Alec Chongris. I'm the engineer representing Carol Dowell for 76 Cottage. And so unfortunately, she has a failed septic system here on this Cottage Road. And I'm sure, as you all know, there's a bunch of old camp lots here, so it's very difficult. We're proposing putting in a septic system furthest corner away from the BVW and the furthest we can from the riverfront. And excuse me, it's going to be, not that really nice for you guys, but it will have pre-treatment and it's an IA technology. So we'll be providing better treatment opposed to a conventional system. And just to meet some Title V setbacks, we actually also had to propose a new well just to meet the 50-foot setback, as the existing well was only 30 feet away from the existing system and would be 30 feet away from the new system. So that's a no-no. It's definitely going to be high groundwater. There's groundwater is about 2 feet below grade standing. And so we will have to do some dewatering. I'm proposing a dewatering pit and consisting of some hay bales shown here. And we will be proposing erosion control around the perimeter of the work site. And we will be going for approval for Board of Health on Thursday, but I've been speaking with Deb about this fairly frequently. So I'm hoping for approval.
Okay, I'll open this up to questions from the members. Mary, any questions on this project?
Yes, I'm just confused about the resource area. So we're partially in riverfront area, which obviously would be to the east on this plan, to the top part of the plan. So that would be
It'd
the
be
Parker River, right? And then 100-foot buffer zone, is that to wetlands that are off-site to the west, or is that to wetlands that are associated with the river?
So if we look at the locus, we have some wetlands, right? Those are the wetlands coming from the river, and then there's some additional wetlands across the street on 75. That's kind of
Okay, that's coming over. Okay.
Yep.
Onto the-
And that doesn't meet us into the 100-foot buffer at all. The one that our 100-foot buffer is coming from the river, right in this area here.
It's coming from that side. Okay, all right. And you answered the question I had about the Board of Health. So I don't have any further questions.
Okay, thank you, Mary. TJ, any questions on this project?
No, no questions.
Okay, thank you, TJ. Woody, any questions on this project?
No, I don't have any questions at the time, Bob. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Woody. Brad, any questions on this project?
All good, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Diane, any questions on this project?
Now, in the past, when we haven't had Board of Health approval beforehand, do we sort of wait for that? In the past, haven't we done things where we keep it open until the Board of Health approves it? Or do we just let them come back?
I think what we've done in the
Choice.
past, Diane, has been, we've continued it pending the Board of Health sign off. Alec, where are you at on the Board of Health? Do you have to go back to them or are you all set?
We haven't been able to sit with them because of the way the meeting dates fell, so we will be sitting for them the first time on Thursday, but it's expected to be one meeting.
Well, I guess our policy has been in the past, Alec, that we would continue this. No one has raised any questions on this plan. So one would simply assume if the Board of Health does not require any changes to your plan, it will come back to us at our next meeting or after that, and we'll sign off on it. Or we'll entertain signing off on it.
That's not a problem.
Is that okay?
Yep, that's not a problem. So that's what I figured.
Okay, so why don't you request a continuance? When's your Board of Health meeting?
This 2 days from now.
Okay,
And,
so, all right, so just continue it to the November 7th meeting,
yes, please.
and we'll put you right at the beginning of the agenda to wrap you up on this.
Sounds good. That's great. Thank you.
Bob, can I ask one more question before?
Yeah,
Alec
certainly,
leaves?
yeah, certainly.
You have a shed to be relocated.
Yep.
Do you have a proposed location? I don't see that on the plan.
It's either going to be relocated or just removed in general. If you wanted to, if you have a particular contingent you want it to be, I know it's up to you. If you want us not to have it in the 100-foot buffer, we can do that, but it may very well just be completely removed as well.
Okay, I think maybe it would be worthwhile between now and the next meeting just to show a location where you want to put it so we can have that approved. If they want to remove it, then it doesn't interfere with a certificate of compliance. But if it ends up going someplace else and it's not approved ahead of time, that could gum up the works. So I would just suggest providing a place for it. It's okay. You're far enough away from the resource that it wouldn't matter if it was in, in the buffer zone in the backyard there somewhere.
Yep, it sounds like we can do that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So the applicant has requested a continuance of the public hearing to November 7th. Do we have a motion to continue this public hearing? to
So
November
moved.
7th?
So
do we have a
moved.
Second,
Okay, all those in favor of continuing this public hearing, say aye. Mary,
Yes,
TJ,
Aye.
Woody,
Yes,
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. Okay, see you on the 7th.
Sounds good. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, continued public hearing on file number 0501416, 8 and 10 Fordham Way for work to raise and rebuild an existing structure. Sam, can you provide a project overview and a recommendation on this one?
I would actually like to defer that to Matt. Unfortunately, I haven't, some revised plans and some stuff from DEP and everything came in while I was away and I never had a chance to take a look at it. So I don't want to start doing any presentation on it.
Okay, great. Okay, Matt, just identify yourself and give us your best 10 minutes.
All right, excellent. So Matt Steinell from Millennium Engineering. You may recall this plan came before you at the last public hearing, and this was for 8 and 10 Fordham Way, where the applicant, Mark Ritchie, is occupying and living in the structure here on the left-hand side at the top. And he purchased the structure south of his property and has the intent to demolish this and to eliminate the 2-unit structure that's there today, remove all the pavement, remove all the concrete, and then to construct a single-family addition on his home. So we're eliminating 2 units and just building an addition on the home that currently sits on number 8. At the last meeting, the board seemed to be generally in favor of it. We actually were questioning whether we wanted to approve the project that night, but we asked for a continuance at that time because we had a rather extensive list of comments from DEP that we felt didn't need to be addressed necessarily because a lot of them were suggestions. But I wanted to have that conversation with the state reviewer. So I went back and after the hearing, I had an additional discussion with the state reviewer as well as with the applicant, and we've agreed to incorporate a lot of the changes. Actually, most. I think there's only 1 out of the 12 comments that we are actually not addressing. So I'll go through them real quick, the changes that were made. DEP made a note that we show 50 cubic feet of dune restoration on our application. They suggested that we add some contours to the plan to show where that was occurring. In having the conversation with the reviewer, I explained that the 50 cubic feet is actually a calculation of the amount of sand needed to fill the whole of the old foundation. And we're not actually building up, we're not, expanding on the dune. So there are no new contours. We're just filling to match the grades around it. So the hole just gets filled in to match the original grades. She also indicated that that sand that's being brought in needs to be dune quality sand, and a sieve analysis provided, and suggested that the commission, if they decide to vote to approve this, make that a condition of their approval. In addition to that, I've actually added a note to the plan that states that a sieve analysis shall be provided and that the sand will meet the dune quality standards of the beach management plan for both sand particle size, color, and texture. There was a comment about the applicant should consider adding sand fencing to the plan. When I had the reviewer on the phone, I explained that there really is no place to add sand fencing on the street side of the primary frontal dune, but that we would be willing, although not required by the performance standards, we would be willing to add the snow fencing. And so you'll see here on the left-hand side, I added a row of proposed snow fencing here at the base of the primary frontal dune. The next comment was about the propane tanks. There was a couple tanks shown here next to the structure, and they indicated that those needed to be removed from the dune restoration or dune mitigation. And again, I explained to her that we're not really mitigating, we're not impacting a single blade of grass with this development, that we're not damaging any vegetation whatsoever, and therefore we're putting the tanks here because the building code doesn't allow for us to put them under the structure. DEP would prefer us not to move them closer to the ocean, and we can't put them on the opposite side of the building because there's an air conditioner there and other electrical sources, and the fire department requires that they have to be a certain distance away from windows and electrical ignition sources, and so that this was the best place for them. What we did do is add a note that says that the propane tanks are to be installed above ground per building code requirements. So it's in accordance with the building code requirements. And I believe there was another note added here that said that we would be strapping the tanks themselves both to a slab footing that would give it the buoyancy to hold it in place, but also strapping them to the building itself to ensure their main concern was that they become projectiles if they get dislodged and ripped off the building. So we're both anchoring them to the ground as well as anchoring them to the building. And so I think that addressed their concern there. We originally had a cinder block wall that kind of straddled between our restoration area and the neighbor's paved driveway here, which actually is partially on our property. My client has indicated that he has no desire to remove that paved area. That's their driveway, even though it's on our property, and wants to ensure that they can continue to use that. So we agreed to remove the wall, but in its place, we're proposing a 50% open fence to provide a little bit of a barrier between us and the neighbor, some privacy, but 50% open fence in accordance with the rules which would be allowed on the barrier beach. The next comment was the primary frontal dune. As you can see on the left-hand side, the grass is kind of in sporadic spots. There was a lot of openings in that where prior owners, two-family home here, they would cut through to get access to the beach. And then on our property, we have the opening here to cut through to the beach. It was highly suggested. We're not impacting any vegetation, so we're not required to do any of this planting. But it was highly suggested that it's in his best interest to plant the dune and to kind of strengthen this up. So you see on the right-hand side, we've greatly expanded the amount of vegetation that's proposed on that dune. Originally, there was nothing proposed up here, and it was only in the side yard we were planting. So this has all been expanded quite a bit. The next comment was, what are we doing under the deck? The structure's way up in the air. It was suggested that we could get some plantings under there. And I talked to the applicant, and he is willing to plant under the slope coming down and under the deck. However, I did caution him that the commission, as a policy, tends to have a requirement that the plants need to survive, and any plantings that he does under the deck are going to be a bonus. They're not, they can't really be held to the requirement that they survive. We have a rather large dune here that blocks the eastern sun in the morning, a deck above that would block, the afternoon, and then the structure to the south that would block any sun. So we're willing to plant it. We believe that there's be sufficient water getting through the deck and sufficient sunlight for something to survive under there, but we can't guarantee a specific percentage. So we're not showing plantings here, but the applicant intends to plant under the deck there and just kind of cross his fingers and hope that a significant portion of it will actually survive. On sheet 2, we have a profile here. We only showed one originally. DEP asked for a second profile of the opposite side of the building to show the deck and its relationship to the floodplain. So we added this profile as well. And they asked for notes on the pile itself to make it very, very clear. The intent is that this is an open pile system, that micro piles aren't allowed, that footings aren't allowed, that it's an open pile system. So we've, if I zoom in here, you can see here, it's an open pile system, steel or wooden. And then we show here with the bottom of the elevation of the structure at 23.27. And then off to the right-hand side, you can see the floodplain is actually 16. So we're a good 7 feet above the floodplain. I'd also like to point out with the elevation of the flood at 16 that the site itself essentially is blocked by this very large primary frontal dune, and all the elevations on the opposite side are at or very near 15, 16. So we're essentially right at flood. You can see there's 15 here in front of the building, and then 16, kind of cutting through the middle of the building in here. So the majority of the site is at or above flood, with just the front by the road being a little below flood. They did, I think I mentioned at the last meeting, they asked about any new utility services coming in. Again, we're eliminating 2 units, and this is just an addition. So we're not proposing any new utilities come in. All existing utilities off of the primary structure will be tied into the addition. So we won't have to cut out into the road for any new connections there. They asked about combining of the lots. Had we applied for the appropriate permits or applications to combine the lots? I explained to the reviewer that that's actually something we can't do at this time, and that would happen automatically once the structure came down, because it would be 2 substandard lots that don't conform to zoning in common ownership, and by right, they automatically combine. But at this time, because there are separate structures on there and zoning doesn't allow multiple structures on the same lot, we couldn't combine the lots intentionally or otherwise until the building came down. And so that's something that will happen after the demolition of the building. And then the final comment they had was about the proposed pavers here in front of the building. As we all know, DEP is not a big fan of pavers on the Barre Beach, specifically in velocity zone areas. And we are kind of, this is the one thing that we kind of stuck to our guns on. We're proposing the pavers. We don't want to eliminate these here. We have an elderly resident who will be living here with Mark, and this is their stable footing, getting out of their vehicles and going into the home. And because we are removing such a large amount, as you can see in the table, such a large amount of pavement and concrete as is, 2,438 square feet of total impervious surface by man-made features such as the driveway, concrete pads, and the residential structure. All we're proposing to put back is 420 square feet of cobblestone pavers. It's a significant decrease over what's there today. It's a pervious surface, so water can infiltrate through it. And I explained that to the reviewer, and I don't know that it was the answer she wanted. I think she was hoping we were going to remove the pavers. But at this time, I feel that it is an improvement over the current situation. And given that it's an environmental improvement, I feel that the policy of the board in the past has been to allow it, and that we would prefer to move forward, and the applicant would prefer to move forward with the pavers as still part of the proposal. That was all the comments they had. There was additional notes added to the plan about up here, construction staging area. The commission brought up the question about, with such a large amount of development occurring in this very limited space, where would we be staging? The applicant owns a separate little parking spot directly across the street, and that we would be either able to stage in the side yard here prior to the plantings and with the dumpster and doing all the work here, and then plant afterwards, or if it became necessary that he could store building materials, pallets of materials and the dumpster over in that parking space directly across the street. And so that's all in this note here. And that was all the comments from DEP and from the board. So I'm happy to answer any of the questions that you may have.
Okay, I'll open this up to the members. Mary, any questions for Matt on this one? Matt, you may want to pull up a picture too of the site because it presents a pretty clear picture of existing conditions.
Just give me one moment.
So that my first question is for Sam, this is a work in priority habitat, so do we have any correspondence from Natural Heritage on this?
I have not gotten any. Matt, didn't you say something about that last time, that you didn't have to?
You're working in the dune, the Natural Heritage boundary, that priority habitat boundary comes up to the back of the houses, and you're doing work within the, it's enhancement work, but you're still doing work. So unless that is exempt.
Again, at the last meeting, we didn't have a filing with Natural Heritage because we weren't proposing any work up there. The applicant is only planting that area there at the request of DEP. So no, there has been no filing with Natural Heritage. The structure itself and all of the other work that's proposed originally when we first proposed this at the last meeting was all outside of the Natural Heritage area. The only thing that is within it, this line here is the Natural Heritage line that cuts right here, is just the planting of the grass on this area here.
I think, is anybody else not seeing his screen?
Yeah, no, we're just saying the gallery
Okay.
of members.
Yeah, I think your screen sharing stopped.
I'm sorry, I went to go switch to show a photo. So yeah, you can see here cutting through the existing deck in the back of the property is the Natural Heritage line. And it went right along the back of the proposed structure. We intentionally kept all the structure, reduced the size of the deck, kept it all outside of Natural Heritage. So when we came before the board, there was nothing proposed on that side of the line. There was no filing with Natural Heritage. And then at the request of DEP, again, at their recommendation saying it's in the best interest of the applicant to plant this. And so the only thing occurring on this side here is just installation of dune grass.
Okay, but we can't authorize that work without a sign off from Natural Heritage. So, that will slow things down. I think you should get that to them as soon as possible. I think that the planting under the deck, is, you can give it a try, maybe within 5 or 10 feet of the edge of the deck, but it's not going to grow into in the middle of it. It's kind of a lost effort to try to plant directly under the deck, except for the edges. But have at it if you'd like to try. And I think we should have a foundation plan submitted as a condition of approval of this project, just to demonstrate that the final pile foundation is as described, because sometimes those things change. So I would recommend that. And regarding the combining of the lots, is your percentage of lot coverage under 20% for both lots, for each lot individually, or are you calculating that combined?
So we have here in the table above,
Yeah,
our combined calculation for all the zoning issue, with the exception of floor area ratio, which we don't address. The architect addresses that. And when I spoke with the architect, which is Andrew Sidford, he indicated that he has already run the calculation and that we are under the maximum requirement for the PIOD.
okay. So you got the 20%, but explain to me why this is a redevelopment in a velocity zone, why in there appears to be more than 50% improvement to the structure on the north side of the project site, why that doesn't require it be elevated as well.
Main structure that we're doing the addition to, that's the question.
Yeah, why don't you have to elevate the remaining structure, the house that is currently being occupied?
Well, the building inspector's already reviewed it, number one, and has said that it doesn't require, but our argument here as to why it doesn't actually require that is that this current structure complies. So that current structure is actually part of an original filing, and I'm just trying to get the photos up here. And that structure is on piles itself.
Okay, so I'm just reading from our bylaw, our wetlands bylaw, and it says no redevelopment, which this would qualify as redevelopment, shall be permitted within a FEMA V zone, which it is, except that structures or buildings may be redeveloped or repaired only in accordance with current local, state, and federal regulatory standards, which you just said. In all instances, reconstruction, renovation, or repairs to structures or buildings shall be authorized as stated herein, provided that the sum of the footprint of all structures or buildings would not exceed 20% of the lot. I'm sorry, I'm reading from the wrong section. That's the lot coverage requirement. Do you know what I'm talking? Are you familiar with this section that I'm talking about, Bob?
Yeah, you know what, Mary, if you go to modification, I think that would be the one.
Okay,
In its modification, maintenance or repair of existing buildings or structures within the limits of existing foundations, which do not result in any addition to or modification of the foundation itself, blah, 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 blah. Enclosed additions above the first dwelling shall be allowed pursuant to FEMA guidelines. So as I read this, it's allowed pursuant to FEMA guidelines. The existing structure, where it's, hence why it's on pilings and it's, but let's just see.
that's on 95, chapter 95 that you're reading from?
Yeah, chapter 95, 95.3, section D,
Okay.
paragraph 5. So it would be on the third page, I guess, of the
Yep,
bylaw. if you're looking
okay,
at it.
gotcha. Okay,
And so it's allowed pursuant to FEMA guidelines, which would be our coastal construction standards, I think actually
but they're
exceed.
doing more than modifying or repairing the existing structure within the limits of the existing foundations. Which do not, it says which do not result in any addition to or modification of the foundation itself. So I'm just having a hard time understanding how this bylaw this project meets this bylaw.
I guess I'm not understanding. So if you do an addition to a structure and the structure, you're talking about the 50% rule, if it goes over 50%, the entire structure has to be brought into compliance.
Right.
I'm showing you a photo here. I'm showing you a photo here that the existing structure that is to remain is already on piles. This is a
Okay.
building that was built relatively recently and
Got
through a
it.
permit
Okay.
through this board.
That is that is the explanation that I was looking for. Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
It's already on piles. Yep.
Yep, got it. Okay. And then the last thing is the cobblestones, and I really don't think that we should expand cobblestones in the velocity zone on the barrier beach. I think that is a good policy by DEP, and I would not be in favor of expanding the cobblestones beyond where they are already existing. And I think there are other surfaces that can be used that that can be stable for access, that don't provide those same risks that cobblestones do.
Okay, Mary, I'll circle back to Mary after we go
Okay.
through first round. All right, thank you, Mary. TJ, any questions for Matt on this project?
Nope. I'm good from last.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think Matt did a
Yep,
detailed
very thorough.
presentation. Woody, any comments on this project?
Just a couple quick clarification questions. The structure we're looking at in the picture with the umbrella on the deck, that is the structure we're putting the addition on. And in the background to the left with the white chimney, that is the structure that's going.
Correct. That's a
That's correct.
two-family
And
house that's existing.
That's on a foundation?
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Woody. Brad, any questions on this one?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would suggest that the discussion on although it kind of sort of is in our purview, the discussion on the propane tanks, I would suggest that the applicant, when they are putting in the pilings, that they make a provision to have those tanks raised and off of the ground rather than on concrete and lag to the building. I would suggest that they be elevated.
Okay, that's just a suggestion though, Brad, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else, Brad?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, Diane, any questions on this one?
Yeah, and back to the cobblestones, Matt. Okay, I was just gonna ask you to bring that up. This is because I remember we had this discussion last time. You're basically taking up the asphalt and putting down
Cobbles.
cobblestones, right? So, I mean, I know it's discouraged and all that, but there's cobblestones right on the left of it. So my thought was there's so much asphalt I mean, you have the option of putting down new asphalt because it's there now. So I didn't really see it as that much more detrimental if you're taking up all the asphalt to putting the cobblestones down. I mean, if it was on the other side of the house, I would say no. And I don't love that it's cobblestones, but I think all in all, the fact that there's already asphalt there, even though it's discouraged, I still saw it as a positive rather than putting new asphalt down, because once you take the house up, you're going to be doing work around there. So you might as well. I mean, that was just my thought on it. I know that it's discouraged, but
Well, you
I
know,
didn't think it would be any worse than the asphalt, I guess.
any other questions or comments, Diane?
No.
Okay. It's the age-old question on Plum Island, a fully developed barrier island, where that there's existing yard features that become grandfathered and people do have a right to maintain. In this case, I guess the applicant could say, well, I'll just leave the hut top in the front of the yard to provide, you know, ADA access for an elderly person. That I think, Matt, you have an elevator going in here, and that was part of the reason for being able to access the elevator with a hard surface.
Yes, it's primarily because the applicant's elderly mother is going to be living with him and
Right.
will need wheelchair access and a stable base from which to not only put the wheelchair on, but stand on. And the cobblestones not only aesthetically are better, they match what's there, but also provide that surface
Mhm.
that he's looking for. When it comes to the cobblestone question, I absolutely understand what DEP is saying, and Commissioner Rimmer as well. Cobblestones are not preferred. They're concerned that they're going to become wave thrown objects and cause collateral damage. The reality here is, and one of the reasons I pointed out on this here, that the site is at elevation 16, the flood is 16, and then I have, you know, a dune on this side of us that goes up to 21. Any wave that has the ability to come over this dune, get underneath the cobblestone, lift them and toss them, is going to take these houses off their foundation. We have much bigger problems on that beach at that point than to worry about the cobblestones. The grill, the building, the surfboards are all becoming wave thrown objects, and the bricks, with the weight that they have, are very unlikely to do anything but get unlevel and sink and get buried in sand. They're not likely to get lifted. It's an argument that the state has for the Berry Beach as a whole, because in certain settings where there isn't a large primary frontal dune, it's a bigger concern. In this particular case, because we do have the pavement, because we do have the right to maintain the pavement, and because we do have the protection of that large primary frontal dune, I think the concern, when you apply it to individual sites and not paint it as a broad brush across the whole island, I think the concern here is significantly reduced.
Well, I did some research on this, and I was looking at the 310 CMR 10.283C. Causing any modifications of a dune form would increase the potential for storm or flood damage. And just to highlight, it says that any modification that would increase the potential for storm or flood damage would not be allowed. I don't see where cobbles actually increase beyond hot top. And you do have a right to maintain an existing structure. I think the reality, and I ran into this in other projects, the ADA accessibility complexities of Massachusetts law. Mass General Law 40, Chapter 40A, Section 3, Paragraph 8. It basically requires that no dimensional lot requirement, zoning ordinance or bylaw, including but not limited to setback, front, side yard, rear yard, open space shall apply to handicap access ramps on private property used solely for the purpose of facilitating ingress or egress of a physically handicapped person. And then certainly the ramp must comply with AAB standards. Now, the problem is if we can allow a handicap ramp in Old Town, we cannot discriminate against a resident in another part of the town because it becomes, and I'll read it to you. This is Chapter General Law 40A, Section 3, Paragraph 4. Let me just see if I can highlight that. Basically, it's an imposition that if it's allowed in one area, we cannot discriminate in another area by law, and it shall constitute discrimination. But so just a couple of points of interest in just kind of my take on this. Mary, why don't we circle back with you? We'll go through this one more time and thank everyone for their patience.
Yeah, I think Diane made a really good point about the pavement that's there now and being able to maintain and use the, and only take out a certain amount of pavement. In some ways, I would prefer the pavement than the cobblestones because of the projectile consideration. I know Matt described that the flood zone in this area as being at 16 and being protected by the primary frontal dune, but this is a velocity zone. So the 16 is measured, from the shore out. Doesn't necessarily correspond to an elevation on the ground. It presumes that your primary frontal dune is gone and that you've got a velocity zone to elevation 16, high velocity waves to elevation 16 at the site. So there, it's not a still water a flood elevation like an A zone. It's as a wave subject to wave action. So there is a concern about objects becoming projectile. So I would prefer to see the pavement, and I don't have an objection to having the pavement be in the same configuration as the cobblestones are shown on the plan. But I do think that would be a preferred option. And that would be, I think the other questions were answered for me. I do think that I would like to see a foundation plan as a condition, a special condition, that it be submitted before commencement of construction. And
Mary, one question on the foundation plan. The site plan shows the locations of the pilings on it. Can you expand that? Do you want something more than that?
Well, so in most cases they haven't been fully designed. They're maybe they have a foundation plan fully designed at this point, but oftentimes they're not, and they need to be designed by a structural engineer, to be determined by a structural engineer, right? And pile locations and quantities. So it's not necessarily that we can expect that the foundation plan will correspond with those dots on the plan.
Okay. Okay, Matt, your response is Andrew. I think what was the architect's name of record?
Andrew Sidford.
Is Andrew on the call?
I don't believe he's on the call tonight. He was at the last one, but that is a pretty standard condition that we would be very happy to accept, that one be provided prior to the start of construction. It's kind of anticipated because as Commissioner Rimmer mentioned, it's oftentimes not developed at this point of the design phase. Okay.
So Mary, you want to see that as a condition?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that we need to get at least some response from Natural Heritage, if they want to reach out and say, we're just doing plantings, do we need to submit and get an email back saying no, then that's fine, but you are showing work and you're going to work in activities. within the dune, and they may just have time of year restrictions on you for doing that work.
The original presentation at the previous meeting did not show any planting in
I
the natural
understand.
heritage.
Yeah, yep.
So it's you're damned if you do, damned if you don't type of thing.
Yep.
Yes. At this point here, if the owner is on the line, if he wanted to speak, I would be happy to let him, but we don't necessarily feel that it's appropriate to do a filing with Natural Heritage for something that DEP requested that's going to cost the applicant time and money when we're not required to do it. And the simple answer is it's just delete it from the plan, take the plantings off. We haven't disturbed one blade of grass as part of this.
Yep.
And we don't
Yeah.
feel it's appropriate to penalize the applicant for basically, doing what DEP asks us to do.
It isn't a penalty. It's just that if you start to do the work and there's, somebody on the beach that sees that there's work being done, that they're gonna,
Understood.
wanna,
Yeah.
it can shut you down. So it's better to find out sooner than later.
Well, why don't we consider this? Why don't we consider it an alternate planting on the plan, which, if the planting goes forward, is subject to natural heritage. How does that sound?
Yeah, or you just get, sign off prior to commencement of construction, or make it a condition, a special condition of the
Okay.
order. And then that gives you time to get
Yep.
to get your ducks in a row with them. Because I don't think they're gonna have an issue with it. It's planting, so it's just you just need to have that piece of paper.
You get that April 1st cutoff date is
Yep.
going to be it. So I guess, Matt, you can eliminate the planting, carry as an alternate, we'll condition it as an alternate. I think it's your client's decision.
So, yeah, I guess at that point there, we would ask that the condition be that the planting of the primary frontal dune as shown east of the natural heritage line be conditional upon obtaining approval from natural heritage and deleted from the plan if we don't pursue that, that we either remove it or we get it approved prior to construction.
Okay. Brad Duffin, you had your hand up.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, what I was hearing, and I don't want to put words in the applicant's mouth, was that if they had to go to natural heritage, that they weren't going to do the plantings. So I understand Mary's position with it being in the natural heritage boundary, and I understand. It's just a shame that we have an applicant that doesn't want to go to natural heritage and won't be putting the plantings in that area. It's a like you said earlier, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, I think we can condition it though, Brad. I think Matt came up with some verbiage, and like Matt, Mary, and Sam could put their heads together on how to cover if it's going to go forward or if it's not on that planting.
Understood. Thank you, Mr.
They just need 30 days, so it's not. I'm sure they're not starting construction in 30 days, or they wouldn't be doing the planting in 30 days. Put it that way. So
Okay, so if we conditioned it, Mary, you'd be okay with
yeah,
that?
I mean, I think that the risk of DEP intervening because they really wanted to have the plantings, and we write an order of conditions that makes the plantings optional, is not, it may not go over well, and they could have problems with that as well. So they've been intervening on all kinds of stuff. So I would just say, go ahead and assume you're doing the plantings and just get the documentation, because this was submitted. This was, I mean, it's understandable. It was submitted as a change in the middle of the hearing, so we can accept it just prior to commencement of construction or something.
Okay. Matt, Mark Ritchie, you had your hand up. Why don't you chime in, Mark? Mark, you're on mute if you're. Okay. So Matt, are you okay with conditioning this as we discussed on the
I am. I think the condition is, again, we meet the performance standards without it. And so if we're unable to or unwilling to, go through that, it's a 30-day, as Mary said, it's not a time thing. It's a penalty thing, the way I see it. It's the applicant's willing to do the right thing. And there's a fee associated with a filing with Natural Heritage. There's a time delay associated with it. And so I don't feel they should be penalized for doing the right thing at the request of the state agency who's not requiring this, but suggesting it's in his best interest, when the
Right.
simple solution would be just delete it. So if it's conditioned that if we proceed with that work, that we need to go through Natural Heritage, I'm fine with that, because it gives us the out that if he chooses not to, he doesn't have to.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, I was muted. Mark Ritchie, 10 Fordham Way. I apologize. I was talking along there and didn't realize I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Mark, we can, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Matt stated exactly what my feelings were. I didn't realize that was part of the accepting the DEP's suggestion that we plant that whole area, and I'm happy to plant that, but I don't think it should be contingent on delaying the process and and going to the heritage site. So the easier thing is simply remove it, because we're already increasing significantly the area of the property with natural plantings from what it is. So planting more dune grass over the entire dune there is really just a bonus. And I'm not concerned that the DP will come back on that. We were doing that really to appease them. So I agree with what Matt was saying. So if that is a contingency of this, then I would say we just remove it, and then we'll move forward.
So I think the thought on it is that we'll put it as a condition that if you go forward and plant it, you will need to go to Natural Heritage. If you do not go forward.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with that, Bob, as long as we can continue with the permitting process and that doesn't delay the process at this point.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go around.
Okay.
Matt, do you have anything else before I open it back up to the members?
I would like to just comment on the cobbles. So I listened to every, and I understand all the issues and with cobbles from the DP. I would just like to point out that we're not only removing pavement there, but quite a bit of actual slab concrete that we'd be replacing. So I believe that when it's broken up is far worse as projectile potentially than cobbles. It is, and I guess we would have the right to keep all that there. So I do believe we are improving it, and we're significantly reducing that area. And it's what's beneath our existing structure, so it would match and be a continuation of that. And it is somewhat permeable. So anyhow, I think it is an improvement. I hope the board sees it that. That's all I have, but thank you all.
Okay. Matt, do you have any other comments before I circle back with the members?
No further comments, Chair.
Okay. TJ, any questions for Matt? We've had a spirited discussion as always on Plum Island matters.
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you, TJ. Woody, any follow-up questions for Matt on this project?
No, I do not. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, thank you, Woody. Brad, how about yourself? Any follow-up questions on this project?
No, Mr. Chair, I'm good with the way that this plan is presented.
Yeah, I agree. Diane, any follow-up questions?
No, I mean, I don't know what's going to be approved or what isn't, but if your plan gets approved as is, I would highly recommend that you go through Natural Heritage and do your planting, because I think it makes it a much more attractive project to DEP.
Well, I think we're treating it as an alternate.
I know.
So
I'm just saying I'd probably go with that alternate.
you just love dune grass, Diane.
Well,
No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
it's a good thing.
Anything else, Diane?
Nope.
Okay. I don't have any questions. I think the devil is in the details on conditions, and I think we can move on to that. Sam, are there any raised hands from the public at this time? on this matter?
I do not see any. I do want to just let you know, I'm kind of dual wielding some cameras right now. I'm gonna leave my camera off. I didn't want to have it on with my computer because it's been weird and it's starting to do some funky stuff again. So I just logged in with my phone just so that I know I have something. So I'm co-hosting with myself right now, just in case anything funky happens. So
Okay, you know what? I'm looking at the gallery and I don't see any raised hands from anyone, so. All right. Do any members have a request for a site visit, additional information, or plan amendment, or adding additional content to this notice of intent?
No.
No.
Okay. Is there a motion to close the public hearing? We'll talk
So
about.
moved.
Do
Second.
we have a second?
TJ did.
Okay. Okay. Motion to close the public hearing. Roll call vote. All in favor, say aye. Mary,
Aye.
TJ,
Aye.
Woody,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors. All right. So I guess the wording on the condition on the planting in the natural heritage. Sam, were you able to follow along what we were talking about? They've offered to add additional planting that was suggested by DEP, but certainly not requested, and it's not a requirement under the act. We wanted to condition that so that if they decided to go forward, Mary had a good point, that they should reach out to Natural Heritage.
right, yeah, and I think that sounds good.
Okay, so you can condition, we'll just add that as one of the conditions.
Yep. And do we want to do the condition for the foundation plan as well?
Yeah, prior to construction, submitting a updated foundation plan. Mary, is that what you're looking for?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, any other conditions, team, that we want to entertain? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion? I'll entertain a motion to issue an order of conditions for 810 Fordham Way with the usual conditions.
So moved.
We have a second. Okay, roll call vote. All those in favor say aye. Mary,
I am gonna have to abstain because I didn't listen to the hearing tape from the original hearing, so I don't think that I'm qualified to
okay,
vote on it.
okay. TJ,
Aye.
Woody,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. Okay, good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We have a continued public hearing for 18 Fordham Way, the Blue Inn, after the fact approval of work to replace 2 sets of beach access stairs. The applicant has requested a continuance of the public hearing to November 7th. So do we have a motion to continue the public hearing to November 7th on this matter?
So moved.
Do we have a
Second.
second? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Mary,
Aye.
TJ,
Aye.
Woody,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. Okay, the next continued public hearing, one of our favorites, it's 33rd Street. Work to install a driveway to provide on-street parking with associated site work, including work within the 33rd Street right-of-way. The applicant has requested a continuance of this matter to the November 7th meeting. Is there a motion to continue this public hearing till November 7th?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, Diane, do you want to second that?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Mary,
Aye.
TJ,
Aye.
Woody,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
And Bob Connors votes yes. All right, team, that concludes our public hearings for tonight. Under administration, staff reports and updates. Sam? Anything exciting going on in the metropolis of Newbury?
Other than trying to catch up from my vacation, not a whole lot.
How was Vegas, or have you been to Vegas yet?
It was awesome. I loved it.
Okay. CSO release and discussion. Brad, that's always been your
Yeah,
topic.
so I think I find it amazing that yesterday we had a CSO release out of Manchester, New Hampshire. It barely even rained here, yet their gifts just keep on coming. I did write a letter to our congressional delegation as from my personal account, not as an official from the town of Newbury, suggesting that it was time for Congress to act to put a moratorium on building permits in any community across the nation that releases CSOs until they can get those things under control. And I have not heard back from any of them.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Team, anyone else have any comments or any other matters they want to quickly talk about? We're going to open the discussion on the town of Newbury dock and pier policy that was adopted back in October 2020. Are we ready to discuss this tonight, or do we want to just push this back to another meeting? Mary, we were actually waiting for you on this, being you were actually on the commission. I think, Brad, were you on the commission as well when this policy was adopted?
There was, yeah, there were so many of them that we talked about. I believe it was.
Okay, so as I recall, this was put back on our radar screen, and there was a discussion regarding policies that conflict with our bylaw and or Wetland Protection Act, and should we look at just I don't want to say abolishing this policy and let our regulations at the local and state level prevail, as they would anyway. So Mary, why don't you give us your thoughts on this?
So this had to do with docks and piers being constructed in areas that are ACEC.
Right.
And so there are stricter standards for what is allowed. And I think some of the previous members were trying to make a link between Chapter 91 licensing requirements and Wetland Protection Act, and trying to say that the Wetland Protection Act doesn't permit construction of docks in ACEC, which isn't entirely correct. It just depends on the construction, how the dock is constructed, and whether it's fixed or temporary, and where that is with respect to mean high water. It gets a little bit complicated, but you can't have a fixed pier below mean high water in an ACEC, a new fixed pier. And so, but there are lots of examples where people getting around that by having a fixed pier up to the ACEC boundary and then a gangway and float beyond that, which is permitted. So I think that the policy is kind of was misleading, and I'm not sure entirely enforceable. So my suggestion would be to just delete it. I don't, it was voted on by a completely different board, and I don't think that it would hold water.
Yeah. Well, would you like to make a motion then, Mary?
I would make a motion to delete it.
Okay, so we have a motion to delete the Newbury dock and pier policy dated October 2020. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion, team, on this? Brad, any comments on this?
Yeah, the only thing, I'm in violent agreement with Mary on this.
Sam, will you make
I-
a notation in the record?
I couldn't agree more with Mary that this was an unenforceable rule. That connection with the chapter 91 was a linkage of a bridge too far. And Mary summarized it very well, and I couldn't agree more that this needs to be eliminated. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Brad. Woody, any comments on the motion? Before?
No, I don't have any comments. It makes sense to me.
Okay,
thank
thank you. TJ, any comments on this one?
Nope, I'm all set.
Diane, I know you have a comment on.
I do not.
Not after Brad's
Let's
my.
delete it.
dissertation.
That's violent with a V.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
Wow.
so we have a motion to delete the existing doc and care policy. Roll call vote. All those in favor of deleting the policy, say aye. Mary,
Aye.
TJ,
aye.
Woody,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. Team, that's it. Anyone want to have the last word? Brad, any words of wisdom you want to add before we wrap? this up?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Roll call vote. Mary,
Aye.
TJ,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Woody,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. It's 7:22 team. We had good
It's my
work
dog.
tonight. Yeah.
Good job.
Go pet your dog, Diane.
I know. I don't
Okay.
like.
Good night, everybody.
Listen, thank
Aye.
you guys for your
Bye.
service. Appreciate it.